I'm starting over, without you. That was Daniel's opening line. Not a toast. Not a speech. Just those 7 words, dropped like a bomb in the middle of a graduation dinner. We were gathered in a fine restaurant to celebrate our daughter Chloe finishing college. Daniel, my husband for almost 3 decades, stood there with a champagne flute still in the air, hijacking a moment that was supposed to belong to our daughter. The sound of cutlery on plates came to a dead stop. Conversations cut off mid-word. About 50 people sat frozen, eyes darting from him to me, waiting for something, tears, maybe, or a scene. That's what they were expecting. I smiled instead. Well, at least you're being honest. I'm Rachel Monroe. I'm 54 years old. And up until that moment, I'd played my part like a pro, loyal wife, hands-on mother, backbone of the household. I gave up chasing my own career to hold things together while Daniel dabbled his way through 3 businesses, 2 job shifts, and a dozen soul-searching side quests. I raised Chloe, my brilliant daughter, who sat there stiff as stone, her cap still perched on her head, too stunned to speak. Just past her, I saw Vanessa Blake, young, well-dressed, pretending to blend in at a back table full of folks I once called close friends. Apparently, they'd all known about the affair. Not one of them said a word. Vanessa had been to our Christmas parties. She'd even called me for advice once, about her future. She sat squirming now, and I didn't even bother to look her way. I reached into my purse and slid a sealed cream envelope onto the table beside Daniel. He blinked at it, the smirk faltering. What's this? Something to read later, I said, keeping my voice smooth as ever. Then I turned to Chloe. I kissed her cheek. I'm proud of you, honey. Today is still about you. I got up, ran my hands down the front of my dress, and looked out over the room. Enjoy your lunch, everyone. I hope the rest of your afternoon goes well. And with that, I walked out. Not rushed. Not flustered. Just calm, collected, and done. The heat outside hit me hard. Georgia in the summer doesn't play nice, but I took it as a good sign. For the first time in years, the air felt breathable. Behind me, I heard the restaurant door burst open, Daniel's voice chasing after me. Gone was his usual charm. Now it was all panic. Rachel. What the hell is this? What did you do? I didn't stop. I let a slow smile spread across my face. That envelope I'd left him? That was the start of something I'd been quietly building for months. See, I was always the one keeping things steady while he dreamt big and crashed hard. When he threw money at his friend's doomed restaurant, I quietly socked away enough to cover Chloe's tuition. When he quit his job to make handmade furniture, I picked up extra hours at Truvanta Corp, just to keep the bills paid. That phase lasted about 6 months, just long enough for him to lose interest. And me? I kept putting off my own dream of opening a financial consultancy for women. After Chloe graduates, I told myself. After Daniel settles down. Then, 3 months ago, I spotted some funny activity in our joint accounts, small transfers, strange destinations. Nothing I recognized. I'd been managing our finances for 2 decades. Red flags like that don't just blend in. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed to be sure. So I dug quietly. I tracked every transfer. What I found hit harder than I expected. Daniel had been siphoning money off for over a year. Wining and dining Vanessa, buying her jewelry, browsing coastal properties, all while preaching to me about cutting costs for retirement. Then I saw the texts. He'd left his phone unlocked one morning. Their conversations weren't just flirtation. They were planning a new life together. Their escape was scheduled for the day after Chloe's graduation. Only thing was, Daniel forgot something. I've been in finance for 30 years. I know how to trace money. I know how to dig. And I sure as hell remember the prenup he made such a big deal about, the one with a fidelity clause that now, funny enough, worked in my favor. While he schemed, I built a legal case. I talked to lawyers, logged every detail, and prepared the divorce paperwork in silence. I served them to him the morning of the graduation, filed and legal, but still locked in court where he couldn't touch them yet. He thought he was making the first move. He didn't realize I'd already played half the board. I didn't go back to the restaurant. I drove home, our big, old colonial house in Augusta's historic district. The same house he'd promised Vanessa, according to those texts. As I pulled into the driveway, everything looked the same. The porch. The landscaping. The family photos inside. But I was done pretending that house was his to give. That grandfather clock in the hallway, my father's pride. Been ticking there for decades. And the old leather couch? Daniel and I used to sit there, talk about the life we were building. Funny how all that feels like someone else's story now. I went upstairs, straight to the master closet. There they were, his suitcases, tucked behind winter coats, packed and ready for his grand disappearing act tomorrow. Typical Daniel. He always packed a bag better than he packed a plan. He was sharp with clothes, I'll give him that. But with the things that actually mattered? He was reckless. My phone started buzzing, again and again. Friends from the restaurant, Chloe, even Laura, his sister, who had flown in just for the ceremony. I only answered one of them. I'm okay. This isn't yours to carry. Today is still your day. We'll talk tonight. I love you. I'd kept Chloe out of the mess, shielded her from it. Her last semester was hard enough without throwing this in her lap. She'd be angry, sure. Hurt maybe. But she'd understand, in time. She always had my level head, and Daniel's gift for charm. Smart kid. Graduated with honors. 3 hours passed. Then I heard his car pull up. The front door flew open like a storm had rolled in. Rachel, he shouted, voice echoing through the house like he owned it. Where are you? I was in the living room, laptop open, reviewing documents. Calm as ever. I closed the lid and looked up just as he barged in, red-faced and rattled. He was holding that envelope, the one I'd left beside his plate. What is this supposed to mean? He barked. You served me divorce papers? On today of all days? I met his gaze, unshaken. Well, you were the one starting a new life. I figured I'd just help you get moving. You had no right. I had every right. I cut in before he could wind up. Just like you had every right to choose Vanessa. We all make choices, Daniel. He leaned back a bit, trying to recover his footing. The prenup expired years ago, he said, smug creeping into his voice again. Any lawyer would tell you that. I gave him a small, practiced smile. Actually, it didn't. Section 12, the fidelity clause? That stays in effect as long as we're married. You really should have read it more carefully. Or maybe gotten a lawyer. I paused. Oh, wait. You didn't, did you? He paled. Right then, it hit him. The prenup, his prenup, the one he insisted on to protect himself, was now his undoing. That meant the house. The vacation spot in Savannah. His half of our retirement savings. All of it, gone. His little public stunt back at the restaurant? That was the costliest toast of his life. You can't do this to me, he muttered, slumping onto the couch like a man who just realized the roof he set on fire was still his. We built this life together, he said, almost pleading. And you ended it, I said back, still calm. Just not in the way you expected. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. He didn't check it. Probably Vanessa, wondering what the hell happened to the plan. Wondering why he wasn't following through on their grand escape. You've always been calculating, he said, switching tactics. But this? This is just cruel. What about everything we've been through? 28 years, doesn't that count for anything? I looked at him. Really looked. The man I'd held on to through so much. The man who held my hand through 2 miscarriages, who surprised me with Charleston for our 10th anniversary. When had he changed? Or maybe he never did. Maybe I was just too loyal to see it. It meant everything, I said quietly. That's why what you did cut so deep. His face softened, just for a second. Like he saw a door crack open. Then maybe we can fix it, he said. I made a mistake, Rachel. People make mistakes. I shook my head. No. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was a plan. You siphoned money. You looked at houses. You planned your exit and a public spectacle. You wanted to humiliate me. That's not true, he started. I picked up my phone, opened the recorder app, and played it. His voice filled the room. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better. She won't cause a scene. Then Vanessa's voice chimed in. And she has no idea about the money. Daniel again. None. Rachel trusts me completely. I watched his face as it sank in. He wasn't just caught. He was exposed. That's her weakness. That's what he'd said. Hearing his own words echo from my phone took the color out of his face. He looked like he'd just been smacked. You recorded us? He stammered. That's illegal. Not in Georgia, I said evenly, as long as one person in the conversation consents. And it's my house, Daniel. I let that settle before adding, I didn't record your little private moments with Vanessa. I'm not cruel. I only recorded what I needed, the part where you were planning to rob me blind. He jumped up, pacing now. Hands shaking slightly. I need to make some calls. Of course, I said, not moving. Your lawyer might be a good place to start. I'll stay at Laura's tonight, he snapped. Laura? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Your sister? He paused, as if realizing just now how tangled things had gotten. I nodded. She's not exactly thrilled with you either, in case you're wondering. She saw you and Vanessa together at that Christmas gala. Didn't say anything at first, gave you the benefit of the doubt. You told her it was nothing and promised to end it. But when she saw nothing had changed, she came to me. He sat back down hard. Everyone's turning on me. I tilted my head. How ironic. I grabbed my purse and the small overnight bag I'd stashed in the hall closet days ago. You've got until tomorrow evening to collect your things. After that, the locks get changed. As I walked toward the door, his voice caught up to me, desperate now. What about Chloe? Have you even thought about how this will affect her? That was the first crack in my calm. I stopped, turned slowly. Don't you dare bring our daughter into this to shield yourself. You weren't thinking about her when you were shopping beachfront property with your mistress. His phone buzzed again. This time he checked it, and groaned. What's wrong? I asked, not hiding the edge in my voice. Vanessa, he muttered. She's already moved into the apartment. That pulled a grin out of me. The apartment you two leased last month? Under both your names? He nodded, confused, like something didn't add up. You might want to follow up with the leasing office. That application? It was flagged for credit issues. Never got approved. He blinked. What? The leasing agent called the house line to verify employment. I picked up. I handled it. And with that, I opened the door and stepped out, leaving Daniel to pick through the wreckage of his half-built fantasy. Laura's place was across town, a sweet little bungalow not far from the college where she taught literature. When I pulled up, she was already at the door, arms wide and tight with worry. I just heard from Chloe, she said, pulling me inside. Are you all right? I'm better than I thought I'd be, I said, following her into the kitchen. There was a bottle of wine already open on the counter. I still can't believe he made that spectacle, she muttered, pouring 2 glasses. In front of everyone. What was he thinking? He wasn't, I said, taking the glass. Or maybe he was. It was meant to humiliate me, public rejection, make me look unstable if I reacted. Laura's jaw tightened. My brother's always been dramatic, but this? This is another level. We settled in her sunroom, a cozy space lined with books and plants, her kind of haven. She'd never married, always chose independence, academia, and a life built on her own terms. I'd admired that in her more than I ever admitted. What was in the envelope, she asked, curious now. I told her everything, the divorce filing, the financial records, and that prenup Daniel thought had expired. The one that had come back to bite him. She laughed, short and sharp. That prenup. I remember when he pushed for it, right after Dad gave him seed money for that first business. So afraid he'd lose it all. She took another sip. And now, look at that. The irony is almost poetic. My phone rang. It was Chloe. I steadied my breath before answering. Hey, sweetie. Mom, I'm coming over to Aunt Laura's, she said right away, voice tense. You don't have to. I'm already on the way, she cut me off. Dad's saying horrible things. Telling everyone you've lost your mind. That you've been plotting this for months. Of course he was. Daniel always painted himself the victim when the walls started closing in. Let him talk, I said. The truth'll come out. 20 minutes later, Chloe walked through the door still in her graduation dress, makeup streaked from tears. She collapsed into my arms the way she used to when she was little and the world felt too big. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, her voice muffled against my shoulder. I didn't want to steal this moment from you, I whispered. You worked too hard to have it overshadowed. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Well. Dad took care of ruining it anyway. We moved to Laura's living room, where I laid it all out, the affair, the missing funds, the plan to make a clean break right after her graduation. I gave her everything. Chloe sat there, letting it all sink in. I knew something was wrong, she said quietly. Dad's been different. He's been off, Chloe said, her voice low. Always checking his phone. Distant. But I never imagined this. Laura laid a hand on her arm. None of us want to believe it, not when it's someone we love, she said gently. My phone buzzed again. A message from Martin Hayes, my attorney. The emergency motion had gone through. The accounts I'd flagged were frozen until the court could sort things out. Daniel would still have access to enough for daily expenses, but nothing close to what he needed to buy a beachfront getaway with Vanessa. I turned the screen toward Laura and Chloe. Good, Chloe said, sharp and sure. He deserves it. Her support warmed me, but I kept perspective. He's still your father, I said quietly. Whatever happens between us, you have the right to your own relationship with him. She shook her head. Maybe one day. But not today. Not after this. He hugged me this morning, told me he was proud, and all the while he was setting fire to our family. The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Laura stood, and a minute later came back into the room, looking unsettled. It's Daniel, she said. And he brought her. I exhaled slowly. Of course he did. Laura led them in. Daniel's jaw was tight. Vanessa looked like she wanted to disappear into the wallpaper, arms crossed, eyes darting. She was in her late 30s, not exactly some airhead trophy wife, but still 17 years younger than me and completely unprepared for this kind of mess. Daniel, on the other hand, had shifted from desperation to fury. Rachel, he barked. This has gone far enough. Unfreeze the accounts. Let's discuss this like rational adults. Chloe stood up and stepped slightly in front of me, shoulders squared. Maybe you should have tried being rational before you made a scene in front of 50 people, she said. Daniel blinked like he'd just noticed she was there. Chloe, this doesn't involve you. Doesn't involve me? Her voice sharpened. You nuked our family at my graduation and you think I'm just a bystander? Vanessa touched his arm, tried to whisper something. Greg, maybe we should. He shook her off. No. I'm not leaving until Rachel starts being reasonable. Laura stepped in. Seems to me, she said, arms crossed, Rachel's been the only one behaving like an adult here. You're the one who torched the house. I stayed seated, watching it all play out. For years I'd played peacekeeper. Smoothed edges. Kept the calm. I was done with that. The accounts will stay frozen, I said. The court hearing is in 3 days. Let the judge decide. 3 days? Daniel choked. What am I supposed to do? You've got your personal stash, I said. The one you've been quietly feeding for over a year? That should hold you. Vanessa snapped her head toward him. You have a separate account? How much is in it? The look on her face told me everything, he hadn't told her either. Not the full story. Daniel ignored her. This is vindictive, he said to me. This isn't you. Maybe you never really knew me, I said. Just like I clearly never really knew you. Chloe turned to Vanessa, her eyes locked in. Did you know, she asked, that he was going to pull this stunt in public? At my celebration? Vanessa swallowed hard. I thought he was going to talk to your mom in private. I didn't know. Daniel shot her a look that could shatter glass. Cracks were starting to show. I think it's time you both left, Laura said, voice firm as stone. Chloe's had enough for one day. Chloe, Daniel tried again. Sweetheart, sometimes relationships change. People grow apart. She cut him off, her voice cold and unfamiliar. What I understand is you're a coward. You didn't even have the decency to talk to Mom in private. What I understand is that while I was working 2 jobs to pay for textbooks, you were draining our savings for your little affair. Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. That's not how it was. It's exactly how it was, she said. Please leave. I can't look at you. The room fell still. For a second, nobody breathed. Then Daniel turned and walked out. Vanessa trailed behind him without another word. At the door, he stopped and glanced back. This isn't over, Rachel. I'll fight you. I met his eyes. Go ahead. After the door closed, Chloe slumped down beside me, tears running down her cheeks. I've never talked to Dad like that, she whispered. I wrapped an arm around Chloe's shoulder and pulled her close. Doing the right thing hurts sometimes, I said. Laura came in, fresh glasses in hand, and raised hers. To new beginnings. I lifted mine. Amen to that. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the start of something new, whatever came next. The hearing landed on a gray, rain-soaked Tuesday morning. A small courtroom, quiet but tense. I walked in with Martin, my attorney. Calm, prepared. Daniel showed up with some young lawyer he must have hired in a panic, a corporate associate, not a family law guy. That right there told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't ready. The judge was sharp, older woman with a no-nonsense tone. She flipped through the prenup like she'd seen 100 just like it. Looked over her glasses at Daniel's attorney. This agreement looks solid, she said. Are you contesting it? The young guy cleared his throat, already sweating. Your Honor, we believe the agreement expired due to the duration of the marriage. The judge didn't even blink. She read directly from the paperwork. Section 18, duration shall extend through the term of marriage and any legal proceedings related to its dissolution. There's no expiration. Daniel leaned in, whispering hard into the kid's ear. The lawyer's expression said he regretted taking this case. The judge kept going. Also, the documented money transfers violate the financial disclosure terms in Section 23. Given that, I'm ordering that joint accounts remain frozen pending full financial discovery. She shifted her eyes to Daniel. Mr. Monroe may continue to use his personal account. The family home, per the infidelity clause, remains with Mrs. Monroe for the duration of these proceedings. Daniel turned dark red. This is outrageous, he grumbled. The judge snapped her eyes toward him. Mr. Monroe, I'd suggest reading the agreement you signed a little more carefully. And that was that. She set a date, 30 days out. Full hearing, post-discovery. In the hallway afterward, Daniel caught up to me. Tried one last time. Rachel, come on. Let's be reasonable. 28 years, that's gotta mean something. I didn't stop walking. It did, I said. Right up until you decided it didn't. He stood there alone as I walked away. Papers in his hand. Suit a little wrinkled. The reality finally starting to land. Word spread fast. Our little circle of friends, the same ones who smiled at me while knowing full well what was going on, they'd all heard by the end of the week. Friends started calling, some to check in, some just to sniff around for gossip. I kept my replies brief. Daniel and I are separating. These things happen. That was all they got. No drama, no details. Meanwhile, Daniel's public image, polished, successful, family man, was starting to show its cracks. The financial freeze blocked his next moves. The beachfront home he'd promised Vanessa? Gone. The shiny new car he'd put money down on? Deal cancelled. 2 weeks after the hearing, Laura called, her voice edged with dry amusement. Guess what, she said. Vanessa's gone. I blinked. Already? She found out Daniel's business isn't what he made it out to be. No big savings. No backup plan. Told Natalie she didn't sign up to date a man with money problems. I laughed. He always did prefer the illusion. While his world crumbled, I got to work. I'd always kept a separate nest egg. Quiet money. Now it gave me the freedom he never saw coming. I rented a little office downtown and finally started the consultancy I'd been dreaming about for years. My first clients? 2 women going through divorces of their own. Then more followed, referrals, word of mouth. I focused on helping women take control of their finances during big transitions, divorce, job changes, widowhood. The work felt real. Far more meaningful than any spreadsheet I ever pushed in a corporate office. Chloe, now working for a marketing firm in Charleston, called often. I'm so proud of you, Mom, she said one evening after I told her about my growing client list. You're helping people through the worst moments of their lives. I'm doing what I wish someone had done for me, I told her. Helping women prepare for what's coming, even when they don't see it yet. It felt good to be needed for what I knew, not just for what I could give. The final divorce hearing landed on what would have been our 29th anniversary. A clean ending, almost poetic. Daniel showed up looking worn down. I'd heard that his business was struggling without me managing the finances. Vanessa was already gone, moved on to a real estate developer in Savannah. Most of our old circle had drifted away from him. The judge upheld the prenup, no changes. Daniel walked out with his personal effects, what was left of his business, and whatever was still in his private account, which wasn't much, not after the legal fees. Barely enough to rent a modest place. I kept the house, my retirement, and 70% of our joint investments, exactly what the agreement allowed for when infidelity came into play. The irony was rich. The document Daniel had demanded all those years ago to protect himself had done exactly that, but not for him. Outside the courtroom, he stopped me one last time. I made a mistake, he said quietly. Is there any chance we could? No, I said, not unkind. That door's closed. He nodded slowly. I understand. And, for once, I believed he did. I hope you find happiness, Rachel. You deserve it. Maybe the first honest thing he'd said to me in years. 6 months later, Monroe Financial Transitions had outgrown the little downtown office. I'd hired 2 associates. We were busy, really busy. Women came in every day, trying to make sense of what life had thrown at them. I helped them hold on to what was theirs. Chloe visited often. She'd walk through the office like she was touring a museum. You know what's funny, she said once. If Dad had just been honest from the start, he might have walked away with half. Some people can't see past what they want in the moment, I said. I used to define myself as Daniel's wife. As Chloe's mother. Those things still mattered, they always will, but now I had something more. I was a mentor. A business owner. An advocate. That envelope I handed Daniel at the restaurant? It wasn't just an exit. It was the key to a door I didn't even know was there. And behind it, I didn't just find revenge. I found me.